Hello, I'm Will Holmes. Today's guest is Gina M. Robinson, a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of R Rise Collective. R Rise Collective is an organization helping individuals, organizations, and companies navigate real life transitions and organizational change. She's also the CEO of Milestones Counseling and Consulting Services, where the focus is on developing skills for everyday life. Gina has spent nearly 30 years working across schools, hospitals, government systems, and private practice, giving her a rare systems level perspective on how people, leadership, and organizations intersect. Through our Rise Collective, Gina helps leaders navigate change and build sustainable systems of support that make workplaces healthier, more humane, and more productive, while also recognizing the personal impact leadership carries. Gina's work centers on a reality many organizations overlook. Employees don't leave their personal lives at the door. Leadership burnout and workforce stress often begin with the transitions people are living through: caregiving, illness, career changes, family shifts, grief, and more. So, Gina, how are you feeling today?
Feel great today. Thank you so much for having me, Will.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Gina. And I've got some
Likewise.
questions for you, if that's okay.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, well, great. I think everyone's going to enjoy learning more about you and what you do and the
Thank
impact you
you.
make across the region. My first question is, what problem are workplaces struggling with most right now?
So I think, the first thing is that people bring their whole selves to work. As much as, we like to say, leave your problems at the door, they still come in. And people can be focused on their task and the things that are occurring in their lives are still coming inside the job. They bring their work experiences and their education, but their lived experiences and realities are still there too, even if they may not be on the forefront. I would say even over the past 5 years alone, people have been dealing with the impact of COVID. They've been impacted by political and governmental stresses. Been impacted by the economic uncertainty, as well as the changes in advances in technology. And now we have AI. And all of that lives inside the person. We focus on productivity and performance, but we often ignore like the well-being of people, their stability and their capacity to do the work. So it doesn't just affect employees, though. I think oftentimes the focus is on employees, but it impacts leaders who are doing the heavy lifting. And they may be overwhelmed by their own life transitions as well.
Very interesting. Okay. So there's a topic I want to ask you about. First, I was hoping I could get the official definition. Okay. What's the official definition of burnout?
So burnout, when I'm speaking about it here, I'm thinking about like the sustained amount of stress that people go through that impacts them psychologically. And so burnout is not just exhaustion. Anybody can be exhausted, but it's the um, sustained performance without sustained support that causes the burnout. It happens when people are required to carry a high level of responsibility, the emotional labor and pressure without a structure or system that supports it. It again impacts their regulation. Sometimes people see moodiness, they see people snapping at each other, and they don't connect it to like the level of stress or burnout that may be happening. It's not a personal failure. It's a predictable outcome when you think about the level of demands that happen in workplace and you look at the level of support that's being provided. And it can sometimes be that the workplace actually is making attempts at supporting it, but it's not the right support or it's not the right level of support.
Okay. Okay, thanks for clearing that up for me. So on that same topic, why is burnout hitting leaders so hard?
Leaders do the heavy lifting. Sometimes it's lonely at the top. It's a saying, but it's also very true that leaders oftentimes don't have the same level of support or attention to what's going on in their lives as their employees. The systems are demanding of them, and they're expected to put on a front and seem like they have the answers to novel situations that they've never dealt with before. They're supposed to absorb everyone's emotions and problem solve, sometimes at the same time. So it leads to burnout, leads to frustration, it leads to isolation, and sometimes those maladaptive coping things that I mentioned earlier with regard to smoking, drinking, and other maladaptive things that people sometimes revert to in high times of stress.
Okay, very interesting. All right, here's my next question. How do transitions impact performance at work?
That's a great question because transitions happen all the time. And um, we often don't look at them as transitions, but if you think about when you're growing up, you're constantly making transitions. But I think it's the unexpected ones, especially the things that, nobody trains you for or teaches you for. Once you leave high school, there's a natural matriculation through the system and expectation you're going to go to college, go in the military, go to trade school, and then they set you free. And so you're out there trying to wing it and there a lot of times isn't a framework for that. So the life transitions that occur in the workplace um, affect us at the core. Again, going back to emotional regulation, our ability to sleep, our creativity, our decision making. So when someone's navigating a life transition, it doesn't stay at home. If they haven't slept last night, that's coming to work. And it's going to show up in their work, in their energy, their mood, their focus, their attention to detail, errors. So all of these things happen as a result of a life transition, and sometimes, especially without the right supports that allow them to do the things to take care of themselves so they can show up as the best version of themselves during the transition.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate that. Here's something I've been thinking about for a while, and it's that fine line between business and personal. And as managers, some think that, hey, it's best to not inquire about what's happening at home, where others say, hey, it's really important to know what's happening at home because, like you said before, it probably has an impact on the job. So, uh, with that thinking, what's one mistake organizations make when addressing well-being?
It's a real balancing act, trying to hold space for people's lived experience as well as looking at their performance and productivity, which is tied to the business and the business's profitability. And businesses aren't going to be around if they're not able to pull a profit out of this. So, sometimes businesses will provide perks and well-being programs that aren't integrated into the system. They don't change the trainings, they don't look at um, the leadership behaviors, even sometimes. The support systems aren't integrated in. So nothing else changes. It's just like an add-on. It doesn't seem as important. It doesn't keep the employees at the center. So an organization might offer mental health days and wellness, but still they have unrealistic workloads and unclear expectations, and nothing is slowed down or changed. So the burnout is still there.
Here's my next question. And you mentioned the balancing act. So as business owners, I've been in business 20 years. I've known you for almost all of that time, it seems. as business owners, how do we balance maximizing performance and profitability, uh, even and even getting the most out of our employees, but also providing a place where they can feel like they can really make a difference and they can feel fulfilled and they can feel like they have a career path. So with that thinking, what's one practical step organizations can take right now to make the organizations better for everyone?
It's a great question. So I think for any organization that just may be thinking about how do I improve what I have or how do I get started on this path, I think it's important to first always do an assessment. I think sometimes people hear wellness or they see things and they don't really take a look or assess who are my employees and what is their need. Perhaps looking at like what are the life transitions that are happening in my workplace that are impacting people the most. Because I feel like if you're able to find that common thread and then address that, that's where impact really starts to show up. So, for example, it could be in a school, for example, which I know a lot about, but depending on like in schools, mostly women, sometimes it's predominantly younger women who may be dealing with changes regarding growing families and the stresses that go with caregiving and being able to put into place things that support those employees, whether it be a flexible schedule or um, things like that to support their role as moms and their adjustment to becoming new moms.
Hey, very good. I think that's great information. I'm sure our business leaders are appreciating all this knowledge you're sharing. So I've got
Okay,
one final question, okay?
sure.
So with everything you shared, I'm certain that everyone wants to connect with you and see what kind of programming you have coming up or opportunities to work with you. Do you mind sharing ways that people can connect with you after they finish watching this video?
Sure. So glad that you asked. So February 23rd, put that on your calendar. February the 23rd, we're going to be offering a free leadership webinar. As I mentioned, it's pretty lonely sometimes being a leader. And there's a unique point of view that leaders share. And so we're going to be offering a free webinar on February 23rd, and it's going to be focused on leaders that are experiencing organizational or life transitions. So we're thrilled to be able to offer that. Life can be hard and people are sometimes feeling very isolated. So we're here to support you and create a space for you to share as well as learn some ways of coping and dealing with life changes. And as I mentioned earlier, like change is a constant and life happens to everybody. So that doesn't leave out leaders. It happens to everyone.
That's a funny thing. Life is always lifing, right?
Life being, as they say, yes.
So do you mind sharing your contact information with us, your website, your email address, phone number?
Sure. So you can find us at rrisecollective.com. That's the letter R, risecollective.com. We can be reached by phone at 240-245-6404 or reach out to us at admin@rrisecollective.com.
Outstanding. Miss Gina Robinson, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It is always good seeing you and spending a little time talking. Thank you so
It's
much.
always my pleasure too. Thank you.
All right. For everyone who's watching this video, please connect with Miss Gina Robinson. She's amazing. I've known her for over a decade, and she has consistently been focused and dedicated to helping others. And I'm sure she'll do the same for you. Thank
I'm
you so
here
much
for
for watching.
everyone. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.